Doug Moore, Maggie Skura, and Rick Chavez with sports. KNTV News at 5.
Good evening, everyone. The wife of Milpitas human rights activist Harry Wu says her husband is being tortured. Qingli Wu says that is the only way the Chinese could have gotten him to say he lied about conditions in Chinese labor camps.
A videotape released by the Chinese government today shows Wu admitting he was wrong about human rights violations in China. Mrs. Wu says her husband was coerced into making those statements. Sandra Stricker is live at Harry Wu's home in Milpitas with more on his wife's reaction. Sandra?
Maggie, this is the very first time that Mrs. Wu has seen her husband since she saw him off to the airport on June 10th. And she says he looks terrible. By the way he looks, she says she's sure that Harry Wu has been tortured.
Qingli Wu watched her husband's so-called confession in disbelief.
Chinese communists just want to discredit him. And they provide the video attempts. This video attempts to serve their purpose.
The video released by the Chinese news agency shows Wu surrounded by interrogators. To his wife, it looks like Wu's lost 10 pounds since he was arrested and hasn't slept in days.
He looks so terrible, you know. And that really make me feel sad. He was mistreated. Is that word right? He's mistreated. A person should be treated like that.
Wu lived in Chinese labor camps for 19 years before escaping to the West and becoming a naturalized U.S. citizen. He's testified to Congress about human rights abuses in China and written a book about what he calls the Chinese Gulag. In the videotape, Wu says he lied about the selling of goods made by prisoners and executed prisoners' organs being sold for transplants on the black market.
All the information he has is absolutely accurate and correct. And that's why Chinese communists tried to discredit him and his work.
You don't know if he's being tortured, or you just don't know what's going on over there. But it's not America.
Franklin and other people in the neighborhood where the Wus live have put up yellow ribbons for Wu's release.
Because he's a neighbor, and I think what's happening to him shouldn't happen to anybody. I don't know him, but I feel for him.
Meanwhile, Qingli Wu watches and waits for the time when her husband is once again a free man.
Mrs. Wu says she hasn't heard from the State Department.
Sandra was completing her report. Thank you, Sandra Stricker, live in Milpitas. Mrs. Wu is encouraging our government and also the citizens of the United States, and especially local people, to keep up the pressure to do something about freeing Harry Wu.
You're watching the San Jose News Channel, KNTV San Jose. Now, Doug Moore, Maggie Skura, and Rick Chavez with sports. KNTV News at 6.
The wife of Milpitas human rights activist Harry Wu saw him for the first time since he disappeared 6 weeks ago. It was not encouraging. The Chinese government released a videotape where Wu appears to confess to crimes against China. But in Milpitas, his wife Qingli Wu sees the tape differently. Sandra Stricker is live at the couple's Milpitas home now with more on the story for us. Sandra?
Yes, Maggie, that's true. Mrs. Wu has only seen a few excerpts of the total 13-minute tape that was released by the Chinese government. But she says she's seen enough to convince her that her husband is being coerced.
19 and is charged with stealing state secrets.
Qingli Wu hasn't seen her husband since she took him to the airport June 10th.
See, he's so tired. He's so tired and at least lost 10 pounds, I think.
In the video, Wu, surrounded by interrogators, says he lied in 2 BBC documentaries about forced prison labor in China and black market sales of the organs of executed prisoners for transplants.
Chinese communists just want to discredit him. And they provide the video attempts, this video attempts to serve their purpose.
Wu lived in Chinese labor camps for 19 years. After he left China and became a naturalized U.S. citizen, he testified to Congress about human rights abuses in China and wrote a book about the Chinese gulag.
All the information he has is absolutely accurate and correct. And that's why Chinese communists tried to discredit him and his work.
Wu's Milpitas neighbors are showing their support with yellow ribbons.
You don't know if he's being tortured, or you just don't know what's going on over there. But it's not America.
He looks so terrible, you know. And that really make me feel sad. He was mistreated. Is that word right? He's mistreated. A person should be treated like that.
Mrs. Wu hopes pressure from the U.S. and around the world will convince China to let her husband go.
Qingli Wu is going to try to convince a few more people to help out in that effort. She's going to Sacramento tomorrow, where the state legislature will be debating a resolution to support the release of Harry Wu. Reporting live from Milpitas, I'm Sandra Stricker. Back to you.
Sandra, has she heard from the State Department about her husband?
She hasn't heard from the State Department since the release of this videotape. The next high-level talks, actually, or high-level contact between the U.S. and China is scheduled for August 1st, when Secretary of State Christopher goes to Malaysia to talk with a Chinese trade commissioner. And hopefully, she's hoping that on August 1st, her husband's situation will come up.
All right, Sandra, thank you very much.